All right, good morning, everybody. Sorry about the wait, had to fix something real quick. We don't have any data before the bell today. We do have PMI data at 9:45 and 10 o'clock, so watch out for that after the bell. Let's take a look at our trade plan from yesterday. I believe it is pretty much the same today. We said holding above 360, we're looking for 87 and 450. 450 is the value retrace of Thursday. Holding below 360, we're looking for 327, value retrace of yesterday, going back down to that value low. And then 287 going back to Friday's value high. Now we are opening up inside a bit of a dangerous zone here. For the high time frame sellers, we're right in that fib zone from this sell-off on Thursday and Friday. So that is a pretty decent place to look for kind of like a bear flag on those higher time frames. So if we don't find buy pressure pretty early, that is looking pretty bearish on the higher time frames, possibly pushing us down into those lower targets where that value retrace would be. So we do want to see some buy pressure pretty early on, or it's most likely going to be the high time frame sellers taking over. Kind of in a micro pullback on the daily here. Okay, for our trade plan, we have a D-shaped micro pullback. So typically that means you look for rotations until a value breakout occurs above the value high or below the value low. So yesterday we had a P-shape imbalance. So we have a slight bullish bias. But if they lose that value high of yesterday, then obviously we're looking for that retrace back down to 327. So neutral for now until we get a value breakout of this range. So holding above 300, we're looking for 450 and 642. And then holding below 300, we're looking for 308 and 120. I think I messed up that first target. That first target, yeah, sorry. I messed these up last night. I apologize. So that should have been 120 for the first target because 308 is above 300, obviously. And then our second one would have been, let me see. It would be 2335. Looks like I forgot to change the first target last night. All right, here is the trade plan. So we have another one of those days where right at the open we're sitting on a cliff on that 30-minute trail. So if we start losing that trail, it's pretty much the same as our normal trade plan. Look for that trail to flip red, possibly sending us back down into prior value. Basically, the whole trade plan relies on us seeing pretty strong buy pressure right out of the gate. We do have a small bull div into the open here. If it doesn't get strong buy pressure immediately, we could still see that fade, where if it goes down, it fades back up. Bearish delta on NASDAQ, not so much on ES. ES is looking pretty strong, has a bull div possibly into VWAP here. Selling VWAP immediately on NASDAQ, very nasty sell. It hit VWAP for like a split second and then just nuked. If we don't see that fade, that immediate buy pressure coming in after this sell-off here, kind of turning into a sweep, then it looks like those high time frame sellers are in fact selling that fib zone, that bear flag zone. Good morning, everybody. Morning, Scott, Tachi, Techie, Shima, G, Roman, James, Lulu. Let me pin the trade plan for you. There you go. Future Backpacking, Bobby, Banana, Estevan, Seth, Larry, Blake, Keegan, Hose, Leo, 2013, Blood, Lubomir, Nitro, Faraj, Michael, Liquidated. Good morning, Jack, OP, Christopher. Good morning, Blake, Sam, eBay, CMAC. Appreciate you guys being here. A little bit of buy pressure coming in here. We don't know if it's a fade just yet. Not seeing a ton of bullish delta. You are running out of bearish delta a little bit. Morning, AT. Morning, it's you. Keep an eye on those value highs of yesterday. They are being retested here. Just hanging off that cliff on the 30-minute. 30-minute really needs to hold like 360. How wide is our value area today? It is pretty damn small. It's only 10 points, so it's not terrible. From 60 to 70. I mean, this range couldn't have been any better for the high time frame, guys. We're literally ranging inside the fib sell zone, the bear flag zone. A little bit of data at 9:45, and then we have data at 10 o'clock. The 10 o'clock data is decently high impact. A little bit of exhaustion on the bottom here. Not really absorbing too many contracts, but you're not really finding too many sellers into that value low. We're like right on that overnight low here, which lines up with that 360. Pretty much everything lines up with 360 here. Needs to hold. It is sitting on the edge of a cliff. Same level on NASDAQ, funny enough, is almost 360 as well. It's actually like 340, 350. These have been some very clean trends on the 30-minute. Pretty much the entire day. Yesterday, Thursday, and Friday. Or sorry, yeah, Thursday and Friday here were downtrending. And then yesterday was uptrending, obviously. And then on NASDAQ, you can see that trend is pretty much the same. And we're sitting right on the edge there, trying to see if we want to shift back into a downtrend. Four-hour flipped green. 12 hours still not looking too good. We did have that pivot, first pivot in a long time. The daily did reclaim the trail. So we haven't lost the trail since May. And you just had a match bar there on the daily. So daily's pretty good. You just need to stay above like 300. Yeah, beautiful match bar there. Big buyers stepping in here. Here's VWAP. You still have that bull div. That bull div is still trying to play out here. 360 being protected. Not seeing a whole lot of sell pressure below it. Here's that rotation, by the way. Rotation is nearly complete. They're looking for 70. Let's double check, make sure it didn't move. It did move a little bit. So it's basically completing it right here. Yeah, here's the value high at 68. Still looking at about a 10-point rotation, 68 to 58. That was our first major rotation of the day, at least since the open. Good morning, OD, Ordinary, Crypto, Rocket. Appreciate you guys being here. Okay, is it going to fail to rotate here? We want to rotate back down to 58. If it stays above 68, they might be looking a little bullish here. Good morning, Chuck, Jason, Jazz, Nazir. Little bit of data coming out here at 9:45. Then we have more at 10 o'clock. Looks like we're going back into a standard rotation here, looking for, looks like 59 now, raising up a little bit. Big buy up here on the 945 data. The 945 data should not be that high impact, but it clearly is. The 10 o'clock data is the one that should be much more impactful. This data coming out in 10 minutes should be the impactful data. This data that just came out was, let me see here, 55.7 over 55.2, so a little bit higher than expected. Still holding that key level at 360 here. Good morning, Tamer. Rocket said, I think any green data after the job miss will move it. Yeah, potentially. Large tape, pretty red today. Which we already assumed because of that high time frame sell zone. We're still rotating for now, unless it has a strong value gain above 68, which it currently does not. Right now, we're in a downward rotation unless that data breaks it. Looking for around 59. Very standard micro pullback so far, just kind of rotating, waiting for a value breakout. All right, couple minutes for this data. Be careful at 10 o'clock. Should be fairly high impact. We're still rotating downward until that 58 level is hit. That would finish the rotation. It's actually moved up to 60. If you hit 60 here, that will finish the downward rotation. The first rotation was from 59 to 69, I believe it was. Or it was like 60 to 70, somewhere around there. Okay, be very careful here. It is front running that rotation a little bit. We do have some high impact data coming out. Good morning, Trent. Once this data comes out, we might be able to break out of this balance, these rotations. We'll see. Need to hold value below 60 or above 70. Kind of in on a 10-point range right now. Okay, here is that data. Let's see how it comes out. 50.1 over 51.5, so a little bit low. Trying to get a bit of absorption here on that break of 360. The sellers are being stuck on that low. Large tape still pretty bearish, but it's not going anywhere. Like I said, they're kind of getting stuck. Your platform froze for a second. Yeah, that happens sometimes around news. Too many orders coming in. So we were just talking about this as a rotation, but another thing you could have said there was it was a rollover top. I completely didn't even see that because I was just looking at the rotation. Either way, you would have traded the same. But yeah, have a bit of a head and shoulders there. Not a great rollover top. I'd say it's probably more of a head and shoulders because you don't have that much of an impulse up. Typically, you want a strong impulse up to have that rollover top. But other than that, the pattern's pretty clean. You had a high, you had a sweep, you had a lower high. Yeah, we were just looking at that as a rotation. Rotation from 70 back down to 60. And that rotation has been completed. So now technically you would be in an upper rotation if you can hold back above 60, going back into 70. But it is currently trying to break that balance. Keep an eye on this rebound here. This rebound into 60 is very important. If they sell this rebound immediately, then it's looking to go back into yesterday's value, possibly starting like a cascading failure. You know, it's a bit macro, but you might start seeing more headlines about the Japanese yen carry trade pretty soon because those yields are they're getting into a territory where that carry trade is going to start being threatened quite a bit. And if they have to pull back from that carry trade, then they have to sell US equities, right? The yield curve between the US yields and the Japanese yields is getting pretty low. It's at 2.7% right now. If it starts getting below like 2.5, we haven't seen those levels since 2022. Look at the large tape. Large tape is almost entirely bearish. These block trades are on the buy side. Those are most likely not even actually on the buy side. They're probably just coming in as slippage from those sell blocks that were happening. That rebound is immediately being sold here. It bounced back into 360 on that 10:01 candle right after the news. Sold 360, tried to bounce into it again, sold it again. So you are falling off that 360 cliff right now, not looking too good. Back into yesterday's value. Possibly going down to 327. This is that fib sell zone from the Thursday, Friday. Damn near the 618, almost to the tick. Let me put this on a cleaner chart. You can see what I'm talking about. So that's the fib from the sell-off. failing the 618, damn near to the tick. The optimal sell point, if you want to get exact, would be the sell zone of the sell zone. I talked about that in my fib video. Would have been around 70. So high time frame traders are taking over here. We didn't really have an afternoon break of yesterday. We kind of did. It's more of a closing spike because we didn't really have an afternoon break until the very close, and then it spiked up. So we're kind of repairing that right now. But yeah, I'd call that more of a closing spike than an afternoon break. Look at that large tape. Large tape almost entirely bearish, which lines up perfectly with what we were saying about the high time frame sellers taking over about around 60 to 70, right? So this short time frame micro pullback didn't really have a bias, but the high time frame is clearly having a bearish bias. Trent, what are you talking about? On the let me see here. Oh, you're saying the 1002 pivot? Yeah. Yep, so that could start a stair-stepping move down. It kind of already is. So we have like three pivots here. Kind of like four pivots, actually. So we had like these two old pivots. We broke them, and then put a new pivot, broke, retest, and then we have a pivot here. So yeah, pivot, break, retest, pivot, break, retest, same thing. Over and over. So that's kind of what we're doing. We have that pivot here, and you're retesting it, and then sold. American Eagle pulling back a little bit. Had a really good day yesterday. It was up to 1340. Now it's back down to about halfway of the yesterday's candle. We'll see if that hype is going to die out. Keep an eye on the trails, keep an eye on the 24s. We're trying to break balance. So you always want to watch those trending indicators to see if they're holding, because a break of balance should be trending. Those EMAs, those trails should be pushing us down here if we're breaking balance properly. Yeah, Rocket, I'm trying to see if it's just like political hype or it's actually going to push this stock up because like I said, I typically don't trade stocks that are getting into politics, but that one looks fantastic on the weekly and the monthly chart. The high time frame charts look really good. We'll see if it gets some continuation. So right now we are in a break of balance. So we were rotating from 70 to 60. Then we broke balance to the downside, retested it as a rebound trade. So rebound trades are when you have a strong break of a value level, then you bounce back into it immediately. Like that initial retest within a couple of minutes. And they sold that immediately. So broke the value low, retested it, sold it immediately. So now we're in a break of balance to the downside. So we are monitoring the trails, we're monitoring the EMAs. And as long as they continue to push you down, you are still breaking balance, right? You're still trending downward. I'm not sure if it's single or cumulative. I forgot. Whatever the default settings are, I believe. It's both. Yep. So cumulated, minimum, or cumulative and separated. I think those are the default settings. I don't think I changed those, but I don't remember. A long time ago. Good morning, user. Good morning, Tarnation. Linus. A little bit of a giant bulldog on NASDAQ and a tiny bulldog on ES. Still forming. It's not actually there. It's a double bottom right now. We have that first half. We'll see if it actually forms into a full bulldog. That'd be a very big bulldog on NASDAQ. It would have to pop up quite a bit. So we're predicting quite a lot. Right now, it's just a double bottom. It would have to pop up to, like, say, 380, 390, then pull back to VWAP. Is that it for the calendar today? It is. High time frame sellers coming in exactly where you would expect them, unfortunately. Unfortunately for the longer term buyers. Very strong sell off last week. kind of a bear flag right into that 618. It's kind of a rollover top, actually, now that I look at it on the 30-minute. You have a little bit of a sweep and then a lower high there. So if we treated this like a rollover top, we would grab the VWAPs. So that'd be like the longer term VWAP. Shorter term VWAP would probably be this impulse right here, which is kind of being hit. So if you traded that as a high time frame trade, be a decent target here, and then your next target would be the lower VWAP, which would be around like 63.20, and then your really high time frame target would be the low here. So point of origin. So that'd be like the daily VWAP, session VWAP, and then point of origin, if we were treating this like a 1-minute chart. Same pattern. How's the bearish VWAP looking? So bearish VWAP from the high would be around 330, 340. So all the VWAPs line up around like 320 to 340. So pretty strong support zone there. And then lose that, you're looking for the prior low. That's for my high time frame traders in here. Let's do the same thing on NASDAQ for you guys that trade NASDAQ. The same thing on NASDAQ. You would first grab the fib. That's our sell zone. If you want to be exact, you can find the sell zone of the sell zone. That's your optimal entry. Then if you want to look for targets, we grab the low VWAP. You grab the close impulse. And you can grab the entire VWAP for the whole trade. And then point of origin. And everything I'm doing, you could do this on a low time frame as well. This is just, I'm just showing it on a high time frame. So that'd be the point of origin. That's the optimal entry for the short. This whole sell zone here is a short entry as well. VWAPs are all your targets. And then point of origin down here is a target. You could also use this point of origin as well. That one's not bad. But yeah, there you go. That's the high time frame trade plan. All right, right now, if you're in the lower time frames, you're not really doing anything. You're just watching these EMAs. You're just sitting back and keeping an eye on these EMAs, keeping an eye on the trails, the 24s. We are breaking bounce to the downside. Like I said, that rebound trade was beautiful. You bounced back into that value low and sold it immediately. Keep an eye on the 1030 close, possible single prints going back to 55. our rotation target, or sorry, our retrace target, coming up at 27. That large tape is just ridiculously red. There's like no large buyers right now. Most likely going to be creating some single prints here, going up to 55. Yeah, it's exactly what I said. If you guys are in Discord, we talked about it during the close. I talked about opening up inside of this fib sell zone. If we don't buy immediately, it's not looking too good. We needed to see way more buy pressure today, around 360 to 380, to get out of that sell zone. Because that's like even if you don't use Fibonacci, like that's where a lot of things line up. That's where the EMAs are going to line up. That's where the VWAPs are going to line up. That's where the value nodes are going to line up from the sell-off, right? So that's like the bear flag zone. So you need to find buy pressure there immediately, or it's just going to do this, right? And unfortunately, we did not find that buy pressure, so we're coming back down. And that is that cliff that we were sitting on the 30-minute. They've kind of jumped off the cliff at this point. They lost the trail at 360. Now we're down to 340 already. Here's a pivot at 340. It's like deja vu, man. Like, how many times we've talked about this exact pattern, like a couple times the past few weeks, right? It's like we're looking at the same exact chart. where you have this like bottom out, slow grind up, a little bit of a roll over top. That trail is right below you, and then you just fall off the cliff. Okay, 3 minutes, and we will have single prints going up to 55. Good morning, Optimus. No, this summer has been pretty active. People typically say that summer's like bad trading, slow trading, very low volume. That's not really the case. Our volume has been pretty damn high. They're trying to repair what they can of this candle. They've repaired about half of it. Single prints going up to 55. Yeah, the 1 minute kind of lined up with a bunch of patterns. There's like a VWAP trap, head and shoulders, roll over top. There was a rotation. Then you had that rebound. You didn't really know it was going to do this until it had that rebound. You knew it was going to go down because it was rotating. But once it hit like 60, it was supposed to go back up. So that was the breaking point. The breaking point of the market structure was around 60. So you knew that was going to happen, or at least you had a high chance of it happening. You didn't know this was going to happen. So then the data came out, and then it rebounded back into the value low. Then this happened. So it's kind of like a two-step process. You could have traded the rotation, or you could have traded the break of value. I don't really watch the single prints on NASDAQ, so mine are not very accurate. And on mine, we don't even have any single prints. Yeah, the selling may go away. Yeah. I mean, September might still be terrible. September's like the worst month of the year usually. I mean, we're setting up for it, right? If August continues to be bad like this. I think the wake me up when September ends is definitely a better I don't know what you would call it, a better saying for the market. September is brutal typically every year. September is just one of those months where like everything lines up together. Usually have like major earnings, you've got major economic data, you've got reports coming out, rollovers. It's like literally, if you can think of it, it lines up in September. It's like what was it, last week or the week before? That week that line, I think it was last week, right? Where everything lined up. That's basically the entire month of September. Nothing fancy right now, guys. You're just keeping an eye on the trails. You're keeping an eye on the EMAs. Keeping an eye on the one time framing on the 5 minute. We haven't tested a 5 minute high since the rebound. Have a good day, Scott. This is what it looks like when the high time frame traders take over on the intraday, right? The intraday has no control. The short time frame traders have no control. This is pretty much a textbook as good as it gets. Fibonacci sell zone, bear flag, whatever you want to call it. So here's one of the VWAPs. If you guys are trading this on the high time frame or even the low time frame, a little bit of support coming up. Then we have 160 to 100. ES, we have 320 and 303. That retrace of yesterday has pretty much been completed. So above 27, this pullback is not terrible. This pullback is just telling you, hey, let's go back to yesterday's value. Let's build up yesterday's value, right? Not that big of a deal. But if we stay below 27, that's a problem. Because if we stay below 27, that means that all of these late buyers, anybody buying in the micro pullback, anybody buying on the high of yesterday, they are being trapped. Lower tail is extremely weak. It turns into a trapped P shape, and it turns into a cascading failure back to those lows, right? So holding 27, this is not a big deal. Losing 27, very big deal. So our first key level of the day was 360. That got taken out. 27 is our new key level for today. That same level on NASDAQ would be 120. If you go back in the stream like 20 minutes or so, I drew up all those levels. You can see that entire chart that we made. I think it was around like 10:05, 10:10. So this is what we call the fishhook pattern on the Momo. So you see the 1 minute, you see how it comes down, then has that like fish hook, where it kind of hooks, and then it goes flat. That means our trend, our higher time frame trend, our longer trend, whatever you want to call it, is very consistent. It's a decent trend to the downside. And then you have the histogram, which is the short-term momentum. So the short-term momentum tries to go up and down, tries to break that trend. But our trend is very stable here. Looks like we're getting a bit of a value rotation. The value ETF's not doing too bad, but the tech ETF's doing pretty bad. Financial's doing bad. Energy's doing bad. Just keep watching these 5-minute candles. This one's so far not breaking the low. Every single candle since that rebound has been one time for me. Breaking the low, not breaking the high. We'll see if that shifts at all. Decent buy pressure on that 5-minute, but it's just being absorbed. Just not enough. And like I said, this is what it looks like when you have those high time frames taken over. And going back to yesterday, if we combine those 2 days together, today and yesterday, this is what I mean by the delta trend usually wins. Yesterday we had a downtrend in delta pretty much the entire day. We did have a closing spike that kind of broke it. The closing spike had a very high delta push to the upside. But other than the closing spike, delta was trending downward the entire day yesterday while price was trending upward. Normally the delta trend wins. Now yesterday, like I said, that's not a perfect example of the pattern because the closing spike kind of broke it. But outside of the closing spike, this is typically what you would look for if that delta trend was continuing. Which I believe today it was. Yeah, today we had a pretty big drop since like 7 o'clock. So one time framing still continuing. Here's our 27 target. The 27 target has been hit. Very key level here. If you hold below 27, it gets a lot worse. Next level is 87. Looks like that job revision woke up all the sellers. We might create a second layer of single prints if it keeps going down like this. Single prints going back to 35. Today's a good example of what I say about single prints not being an entry. They are a target, right? Just because there are single prints doesn't mean you can just randomly press the buy button and hope they're going to get filled. Hope is not a strategy, right? Single prints are a fantastic target. They are a terrible entry most of the time, right? We've had times where, like, I think it was last week or the week before, maybe the week before that, sometime in the last month. We had times where the single prints would form and then instantly get filled in, like the next 15 minutes. So you do have times where you can just like blindly press the trade button and go for the fill in and it works, but most of the time it's not that easy. They are not entries, they are targets. You need some reason to fill them in. The 5 minutes showing a little bit of a sweep here. Are we going to break this one time frame effect? You would need a really big bounce to break it on this candle. It would have to break the high at 35. And right as I say that, not happening. ADMA selling. So one time frame effect, holding strong. This is the problem that I said about holding below 27. It gets very bad. You're starting to ramp up quite a bit. You're down 10 points already from 27. You always got to watch out for days that look like this on the open. We keep talking about how it's like sitting on a cliff, right? And it might fall off that cliff. If your day looks like this on the 30-minute, where you have like a pretty decent uptrend, but it's kind of like a rollover top on the 30-minute, and then you're sitting on that trail, it's like perfectly timed right at the open. Are they going to bounce off that trail or nuke the trail? And today they decided to nuke the trail. When was the last time we had this? It was like sometime last week. Almost the same exact pattern. I think it was this one here. It was Tuesday. Yeah, Tuesday, same thing. Very nice uptrend. Sitting right on the trail, right at the open, then just nuked it. Yep, same thing on Thursday as well. Uptrend, sitting on the trail right at the open. Flipped the trail pretty much on the opening candle and then nuked. You do not want to be sitting on that trail right on the open. It's just really dangerous. Single prints back to 35 in 10 minutes. We have not touched the 1 minute trail damn near the entire day. That's how aggressive this is. You lost the 1 minute trail pretty much at the 10 o'clock news. You have not touched it since. All right, let's do an update on our higher time frame chart. So for the higher time frame traders looking for that bear flag, your targets are being smashed right now. You're hitting all your VWAPs. So your only targets left are the point of origin targets. If you were treating this like a rollover top on the 1 minute, your VWAP targets are hit, and then that point of origin from the low of day, or from the open basically, is what you're looking for. Like if we were pretending this was a 1 minute chart, this would basically be the open of the day. Or this could be the open of the day, and then you have that impulse, and then rollover. And this is a great way to show you, like, different traders can come to the same conclusions, right? This is purely price action. Just looking at price action, a little bit of volume with the VWAPs. And then looking at a chart like this with like the volume profiles, you pretty much come to the same conclusion. Your levels are damn near the same. Here's that value retrace on NASDAQ at 120. 327 already smashed on ES. Back to the daily trail at 317. Not looking great on the 12-hour, which is kind of the, it predicts the daily, right? 12 hours more of a bear flag into the trail. Bounced off that pivot. Daily hasn't lost the trail yet. Could be a daily rollover, which would be pretty nasty. You have a high here, sweeping the high, and then putting in a lower high possibly. Okay, strongest buy pressure so far. Let's see if we can break that 5-minute high. We have not lost a 5-minute high this entire downtrend. They're trying to repair the 30-minute candle. 35 is the single print level. Five-minute high still holding. Look at that one time frame effect. The high's being protected every single candle since the rebound. Tried to break that high right there and got slapped right back down. Not seeing a lot of sell pressure on the low here. They do need to fix that or it's going to break the high. This is the last candle to repair the 30-minute candle. Looks like they're trying to repair the C candle. They're almost shifting the POC. POC is nearly 20. There's the POC shift. There's the 5-minute high break. That is the first break since the rebound. They are trying really hard to repair the C candle. Looks like it still has about 5 single prints going back to 35. This is what I was talking about. This candle is very deceiving. The inverted hammer on a low. This candle looks very bearish. It's not very bearish because what it's showing is weakness on the low. And what I said earlier was you didn't have a lot of sell pressure on that low. You needed a lot more sell pressure there, or you're probably going to break the high, right? These candles you got to be careful with. Like I said, inverted hammers are very deceiving. They look much more bearish than they are. An inverted hammer on a low is not the same as an inverted hammer on a high, right? On a high, it looks much better. On a low, it's showing weakness on the sell side. The sellers are not as strong on the low of that candle as they should be. Here comes that 30-minute close, creating single prints back to 35. So we have two sets of singles now. That's the first tap of the 24 and the trail on the entire way down. Okay, one time framing bearishly has come to an end. Now keep an eye on those 5-minute lows. We are one time framing bullishly. The candles are yellow. That's what it shows when you're breaking the high, not the low. Keep an eye on those single prints up to 35. Hitting the 55 single prints would line up with a VWAP, so keep an eye on that. Not a great sign for the sellers. They shifted the POC down and then immediately started bouncing. So the buyers are doing a better job protecting that POC. They're trying to protect that 27 level. The 27 level is the key level for the volume profile. Here's the first rebound into it. We'll see if the sellers can drop it. If they hold above like 30, it's a high time frame level, so they need to hold like a 30-minute candle at least. But if they hold above 30, then you could say it's just rotating yesterday, not going into a massive sell-off. Here's the VWAP from the low. There's one of the targets on NASDAQ for the VWAP traders. Same thing here on ES. There's the VWAP from the low. Keep an eye on those single prints going up to 35. Is this not the typical characteristic of a P volume profile, V recovery? P shape, it's not a P shape today. It's a P shape yesterday. Today was a D shape. It was a D shape on the pre-market. Now it's a thin profile. A thin profile is pretty much what you see right here, where it's just about the same size clusters throughout the entire profile. It's a trend profile. Well, Tarnation, that's why we don't predict, right? We don't know. We don't know if it's going to just rotate or if it's going to fail that value and come back down. That's why that key level is 27. If it holds above 27, then you're just stuck inside yesterday's value. You're just rotating back and forth. But as soon as you re-lose 27 and the sellers start building up below that again, then you're not in that value. So you're not predicting rotations below 27. Here are the single prints going up to 35. We've got 2 remaining. The weekly volume profile, the weekly would just be 2 days. So it'd be today and yesterday. So you're basically talking about yesterday's P shape, which is what I was saying. So the weekly value low is pretty much the exact same as just looking at yesterday. The yesterday's value low is 27. Yeah, the video on single prints is called How to Trade Market Profile. You can also look up single prints on my shorts. I've got a lot of YouTube shorts on that. So we don't know right now if it's just filling in single prints or it's actually bullish, right? If it stays above 35, then we could say that it's pretty decently bullish, at least short term, possibly in a VWAP. But if you fill in these single prints and immediately start selling, then obviously they're just looking to fill in single prints. So pay close attention to how it reacts to 35. What's our low of day? Our low of day is 140, damn near the 120 value low to the tick. You missed it by 20 points, obviously. Pretty close. For how big of a move it is, not too bad. You are bouncing a little bit early. I wouldn't consider that an incomplete auction. That's probably not enough room there. But yeah, bouncing a little early. Looking for 120. Below that, you're looking for Friday's value high, which is 35. Your val was already hit. Yeah, it might be slightly off. The not yours. I just mean like the levels might be slightly off from each other. When it's in an LVN like that, a big low volume node, like a wide low volume node, the volume profile levels can be different on the platforms. It depends on where they're calculating it. Failing a little bit early here. You did not finish filling in those single prints there. A little bit of absorption on the 5-minute there. The high got slightly absorbed. Here's is that 209. If that's right below the node, that's not bad. Yeah, 209 is not terrible. Like, TradingView does this sometimes. If there's a big low volume node like this, TradingView puts it kind of on the bottom. So if it's at the top of the low volume node, like right there, that's perfectly fine. Around like 200-ish. You can play with the row size in TradingView, and you can try to fix that. I've always kept my row size at 100, I believe. It's trying to hold this like 1-minute trend. You're bouncing off the trail. You're still putting in higher lows. At this point, it's still kind of a profit-taking trend. It's not like a complete trend flip. But they are trying to hold those lows here. That trail being protected. All right, it sold off a little too early last time. Let's see if it can finish filling in the single prints into 35. You had your row size on 1,000. Yeah, I don't think that will give you any accurate levels. Small bear div, yeah, it's a very small bear div here. The decent amount of bullish delta being stuck right below that single print. Just needs like one more pop and it will fill in these lower single prints here. You nearly finished the 100% extension, even though the initial balance was pretty wide. Looking for 303. Looks like there's too much absorption here for those single prints to be filled in. All the buyers trying to fill them in at 30 to 31 getting stuck. Starting to lose those trails again. It's like identical to yesterday, just inverse, right? You had a massive impulse on the opening candle, then it kind of slowed down quite a bit. And we're seeing that right now. Very strong impulse out of the gate. And we are slowing down by like half volume, I believe. Yeah, nearly half volume. Yeah, our single prints are still mostly being filled in same day or post the day after. We have like no single prints left open. Yeah, there's like none recently. Pretty much every single time we form single prints, they're repaired the same day, and then very rarely they're filled the next day. Because most of the time they're just filled the same day. Still seeing our initial balance pattern. So the initial balance high or low being untested once one side has been taken out. Yeah, you have a lot of POC chop here. Just building up the POC node, kind of similar to yesterday with the P shape building up that node. You can see the level they're fighting over. They're fighting over that 27 we talked about. I'm not sure what you're talking about, Ollie. Keep it on this low retest here. We'll see if they want to put in a double bottom. That absorption's looking pretty ugly. They absorbed a lot of buyers just below that single print, protecting the single prints. This could be the high time frame traders taking over again. We'll see. Getting a little extended on that ADMA on the high time frames. Breaking a 15-minute pivot here. Yeah, you could say there's a bull div here. This is one of those bull divs you have to zoom out quite a bit, though. A little bit dangerous. That breakdown there is much lower delta than you would expect. that looks like they have a lot of delta there. They don't really have any delta. It doesn't exactly mean it's stronger, it just means it's more it's more relevant, right? Like if we're looking at this low and then saying there's a bull div to this low, there is a lot of price action in between. So it's not as safe to say there's a bull div there. But if there was a low right here and then like another low like right here, that's a lot easier to say there's a bull div. Now that could be a bull div on like a higher time frame. So like if we go to like a 5-minute, but then again, if you look at the 5-minute, it's not really formed yet. Like the 5-minute hasn't really put in that cluster, hasn't really put in that fractal. Because we shifted the POC down, we do not have a lower tail right now. So if they want to extend the lower tail, that's currently about 15 points, 10 to 15 points. And that would line up with our extension anyway. The extension down to 300. That's what the higher time frame traders are possibly looking for here. Not really seeing a lot of bearish delta here. Like I said, on the 1-minute, this looks like there's a strong move down. It's not really a strong move down. There's not really anything trading there. It's more so a lack of buying. if you're getting stopped on your trails too early, you're moving them down too fast. Like you're probably zoomed in too much. It's when people watch the 1 minutes like this and they're like looking at the exact candles. That's why when I watch a 1 minute, I'm zoomed out like this. Because I don't really care about the candles too much. You need to wait for clusters to be formed, like highs and lows to be formed to pull your stop into it. People like use one candle and then they immediately pull their stop down. That's not how it works. Like a good example is like when you're pushing down like this, there's not really an easy way to trail a move like this when it's just going straight down. Unless you're using a moving trail like a EMA. If you're using a structure trail, there's nowhere to move your stop down here until it bounces and then fails again. Because once it breaks that low, you can then move your stop to that high. But there's no structure right here to move your stop down. Same thing with this move down here. This move down has no structure. And then it pops up and then breaks. So then you can move your stop down. And then same thing here. Moves down. There's no structure. Pops up and then breaks. So you can move your stop down to like there. And then you get trailed out here. People just move their stop way too early. There's no structure to move their stop down to. The only time you should be moving your stop without a cluster to move it to is if you're trailing based on like points. Like in your head, you're like, okay, I'm trailing based on 5 points. Then it doesn't, nothing matters. Literally, the points are the only thing that matters. But if you're trailing based on points, you can't complain about being stopped out early, right? Because you're not using a system, you're just using points. But some people prefer to use points because it just feels better. It makes more sense to them. Yeah, you need to have more of a like a cluster or like a high or a low, some kind of market structure level before you move your stop down. If you're just moving it down just to move it down, then you're trading based on points. Which is not in itself wrong, but most of the time it is incorrect. It is trading your P&L, which is not good. Yeah, a lot of people struggle with the same exact problem, and the problem is trading like this. Like zooming way too close into price action. Like the whole point of reading price action is understanding the overall structure, like understanding what's going on overall, not just in the past 5 minutes. Like if you're zoomed so far in, you're like, oh wow, we're actually getting a lot of buy pressure here, right? And then you zoom out, you're like, that literally does nothing. Like that buy pressure does absolutely nothing. Yeah, you still have a possible bulldog. We have the first half of the bulldog. Like if you can't understand how to zoom out on 1 minute charts and like read it as a structure, not as a candle, you shouldn't be using 1 minute charts. You should be using like 5 or 15 or 30. Because that's what those charts are doing. The higher time frame charts are clustering the 1 minute chart together into larger candles. Like that's the entire purpose of time frames. You can look at it broken down into multiple candles, or you can look at it as one big candle. The 1 minute's a beautiful chart because you can see what the higher time frames are doing while simultaneously looking at it broken down into multiple increments, right? And that's why you can do stuff like this where you have like an external chart on the 1 minute chart if you want to do that. I think I have that over here too. It's easier to see. Like we can look at the 1 minute chart inside of a 30-minute chart. It's all personal preference, but at the end of the day, most people are using the 1 minute chart or things even faster than 1 minute, like tick charts or Renko or whatever, because they like to gamble, right? They're treating it more so as like a gambling thing. They want to be in and out as fast as possible. But if you can prove that you can use like the 1 minute or lower time frames and it actually helps you, that is perfectly fine. It's really good for like micro scalping, like if you're using like tick charts or like 1 minute charts and you're kind of zoomed in too much. But if you're trying to trade like the bigger trades, like the volume profile rotations and stuff like that, you just can't be zoomed in. You're just going to kill yourself on your trades. But all right, guys, we're going to call it here. I appreciate you guys being here. As always, I will be streaming in Discord for the rest of the day. If you guys are in Discord, I'll see you guys there. If you guys are not in Discord, I'll catch you guys tomorrow, same time as always. If you guys want to support the channel, you can use code BREW on Apex. I believe they're still 80% off. You can check out a free trial on Addis down below. And you can also check out Discord and our other things on our website down below as well. If you guys enjoy the content, hit that like button. Be sure to subscribe. If you guys are brand new here, check out all my videos on my channel. I got a ton of videos. Check out my playlist. I break them down into different playlists. I know there's a lot of videos, so I try to break them down into different playlists: volume profile, order flow, playbook setups, stuff like that. But yeah, check out all that stuff. Hit that like button. Be sure to subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace, everybody. I'll see you tomorrow.